Before, we are ready to grant this country and start afresh.
Government on coalition calls with organized labor over imposition of 15% VAT on electricity. The finance minister has 1 week to withdraw the tax.
We will not pay it today, we will not pay it tomorrow. So we are giving government up to 31st January 2024 to withdraw the letter.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Vodafone. Now, government's controversial decision to impose a 15% value added tax on electricity has tonight firmly pitched it against organized labor. Led by the Trades Unions Congress, Labor has issued a 1 week ultimatum to the finance minister to withdraw the tax or face your wrath. Now, the Electricity Company of Ghana has confirmed to Joy News the tax has appalled its customers and is yet to enforce a directive which should have taken effect on January 1. Well, Labour today put together its members and made a declaration. They have declared they will never pay the tax and are ready to grind the country to a halt to force the government to comply. Listen to the TUC Secretary General, Dr. Yaba.
It is worth noting that 30 kilowatts hour of electricity allows the Lifeline customers to use only 3 LED bulbs, one electric iron, 1 television, and 1 fan. And I want to emphasize that this 30 kilowatts hour thing, Lifeline, it was 50 since the early 90s. Then in 2022, PURC changed it from 50 to 30. They did it quietly. We note that since 2022, electricity tariffs have gone up by 73%. So in 2021, if you were paying 100 Ghana cedis, now that same customer is paying 173 Ghana cedis. So today, organized labor, we have come together again, and our message to government is very simple. We cannot pay VAT on electricity, period. We will not pay it today, we will not pay it tomorrow. So we are giving government up to 31st January 2024 to withdraw the letter. If by that time the Minister for Finance has not given the directive to ECG and NEDCO to stop the implementation of VAT on residential customers, we will advise ourselves.
We'll hear from the Electricity Company of Ghana pretty shortly and organized labor, but my colleague Blessed Sogan is with me in the studio. Blessed, you were there at this press conference. This was not a TUC show, was it? This was also a show of unity among organized labor against this task.
In fact, when you talk about the composition of TUC, it's the umbrella body for all labor associations here in Ghana, and they are internationally recognized and certified by the International Labour Organization, ILO. So which means that the composition goes beyond a membership of 20 other groups and more, because you have both public and private sector labor unions working under this umbrella body, and it's the reason for which they organized this emergency meeting, bringing together the leadership of all these various branches under the organization.
And they've been talking to you beyond what we had from the TUC Secretary General. There are other unions who are taking this even further. For them, this country, they are ready to grind it to a halt. but also other threats that they want to carry out if government does not comply.
The indication we're getting from some of the groups, including the Ghana National Association of Teachers and the graduate teachers, and also the public sector workers, is that they're running out of patience, and they believe that their leadership is even going at a slow pace. The groups are warning that they may have to withdraw their services across the country if their leadership fails to secure a deal with government on the reversal of the policy by the 31st of January this year. And in fact, we have some of the public sector workers threatening that they may grind the country to a halt just on this issue.
We are going all out, and I have indicated before in previous interviews during the DDEP that we are ready to ground this country and start afresh. We are ready to do that. We have sacrificed enough. We have sacrificed enough. We are not ready to go on this business. Ghana has come to a stage that we now need to move to the developmental stage. This business as usual over the past over 30 years is finished. And the new generation of labor leaders are not going to take this. If they've got the men what they are sought, they should sit with us. We want to use the National Tripartite Committee, which is in the labor law. These issues can be discussed there. When they came, we introduced social dialogue, the tripartite partnership. As our leaders said, not even one policy have been brought to be discussed. So what are we talking about? They are to manage the country for our benefit, not for individual benefit. So we won't take it. And they will see, they can take us for the ride. And whatever will happen in this country, we know the citizens, our families, every Ghanaian, they are suffering. It's only a few that are enjoying.
We are not ready to pay this VAT. It is not about reduction. It is not about negotiating it down. It is just wrong. And government should withdraw it wholly. That's all.
Are you sure that your members are indeed feeling the pain? Because ECG has not started implementing.
Yes, but you see, we have to prevent it. Our members are already feeling the pain of a myriad of taxes that is already being imposed on the people. There is hardship in the Ghanaian society. There is hardship in our society. And government is not interested in implementing policies that will reduce the hardship of our people. Go down to the people in the various communities and the townships, and you will see stark reality of suffering and hardship. And for any government in this situation to impose more taxes is just to say that that government is insensitive.
If we don't get it, we'll continue to communicate on our platforms, and the next actions that we need to take, we will take them. And I think the leader of organized labor, Dr. Yaoba, used a phrase here that we will advise ourselves. And when organized labor talks about advising itself, there's only one and only one action only. But of course, like I said, we'll use the various platforms. We have to continue discussing it. But we are hoping that in the spirit of social partnership, the government will do the right thing in terms of removing this VAT. It cannot be the only source of generating revenue for the country.
But did they explain the real reasons why they're so incensed?
A number of factors, and there's one revelation coming up which we'll talk about shortly. But we heard from Dr. Yaoban pointing out clearly that if you look at the definition from the Finance Ministry, those consuming above the lifeline level would have to pay this 15% value added tax. And if you look at the net, according to them, per research, a lifeline consumer, according to the definition of the Electricity Company of Ghana, is someone who's just operating with 3 light bulbs, a fan, a television, and also an iron. That's all. But you know that an average worker would obviously have some other electronic gadgets that they would have at home or work with. That's their concern, that it then puts majority of their members out of the lifeline category, then pushing them to pay this 15% additional charge. They are, however, puzzled as to why the government of Ghana is now promising mining firms, multinational companies, the reversal on value-added tax on their transactions. The belief is that these firms are making a significant amount of money, and government simply does not understand why the labor unions do not understand why government will now be promising to reverse their value-added tax and impose a 15% additional tax on these groupings.
It is also important and very, very sad, comrades, very, very sad to note that why government is imposing VAT on us, residential customers of electricity. Plans are far advanced to remove VAT on mineral exploration in Ghana for wealthy multinational mining companies. And the media reports that we have read indicate that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, in a meeting with Ghana Chamber of Mines, assured them, Abu Jinabo, assured them that that policy will be implemented in the first quarter of 2024. What kind of life is that? What kind of? You impose tariffs on poor consumers of electricity, and then the wealthy multinationals, you are going to remove it. And he met them and assured them that by the end of this quarter, they are going to remove VAT from exploration for these rich companies. So what kind of country are we living in? Normally, in situations like what we have in Ghana today, when our economy is misbehaving and so on, what happens normally is that our mineral resources, because those of you who have studied economics, minerals, gold and the rest, they are anti-cyclical. So if you have checked, when economies go down, people invest in gold. So if you have gold and there is a problem and your economy is going down, you use the gold to prop it up. That's why they were trying this oil for gold, whatever they are calling it. In a situation like this, that's what we expect. When there are shocks, both internal and external, you use your mineral resources because this is God-given. You use it to deal with the shocks, to cushion your economy from this external and internal shock. But in Ghana, sadly, that is not the case. It's always the poor people in this country, including pensioners, who bear the brunt. And we should not allow that to continue.
And joining me right now is the Deputy Secretary General of the TUC, Joshua Ansah. Mr. Ansah, thanks for your time here on Top Story.
Good evening, my brother Iwas.
Great to have you. Before I even hear your thoughts on what has happened and your plans for the next 1 week, if the Finance Minister doesn't withdraw this tax, I want to bring in the ECG. Leila Bubakari is the External Communications Manager there, just to understand where the company is right now in implementing this policy. Leila, thanks for your time here on Top Story. From what I understand, you're yet to implement this directive to you to impose a 15% tax. Has that changed?
It's still the same. We are trying to put things in context. The letter from Ministry of Finance stated clearly that we should liaise with the Ghana Revenue Authority to implement this, to make sure that the implementation is smooth. And I think that from ECG's side, we need to contextualize it for the Ghana Revenue Authority before we begin implementation. And by contextualizing it, we would have to let them know the expected amount of revenue for the next quarter or so and how much the tax would bring into their coffers. So those conversations are still being had. And until then, we haven't yet implemented it.
To be clear, this 15%, who exactly will it affect when it comes to your customers?
It's going to affect all our residential customers who use power above the lifeline limit, which is 30 kilowatts per hour. Per the PURC, those who use under 30 kilowatts are charged a different tariff, which is called the lifeline, which is significantly cheaper. And those who go above then have a different tariff. And so anyone who goes above 30 kilowatts hour and is in the residential bracket is expected to pay when this is implemented.
So it only affecting the residential customers, not commercial customers?
Well, the commercial are special load tariff customers do pay 20% VAT already. So they are already paying the VAT, but our residential, not yet.
What sort of feedback are you getting from your customers since this was announced? Because many thought, until we heard from you this week when we spoke to you, that you've already started implementing this.
Yes, it's been a challenge, because we interface with the customers on a daily basis. Their first point of call is to us. I try to let them understand that this is something that is coming from the Ministry of Finance and the Ghana Revenue Authority. Ours is to implement. It's unfortunate that we interface with them and would have to hear their sentiments. The sentiment out there generally isn't good because of the economic hardships that a lot of people are facing. Unfortunately, our legal ammunition does not come in for us to advocate in any effective manner for the customer. That lies within the PRC to advocate for the customer. And so usually we tell the customers to relay their frustrations to the Public Utility Regulatory Commission for them to liaise with the Ghana Revenue Authority. In any case, this is a law that has been passed and should have been implemented. By law, it should have been implemented in 2013. If there's any amendment that can happen, that would have to happen between different factions in government. We are just having these conversations with our stakeholders, which includes the Ministry of Finance, the Ghana Revenue Authority, our internal staff as well, to understand how our implementation would affect our revenues.
The conversations you're having with the GRA to get to a point where you can implement this, how is that going?
I do not have any current information for you on that level because that's very high level. But I think that as soon as all the agreements are made, we are required by PRC to educate our customers on how it's going to affect our customers at the point where they are buying power. So as soon as these decisions are made and the button is pressed, we would go out to educate our customers on how this VAT is going to apply to their purchases of bills or payments of bills.
Thank you very much. And that is Leila Bubakari, who speaks for the ECG. She is External Relations Manager for the company, giving us a sense of where they stand tonight with the talks with the ECG as they approach implementation of this policy that would mean that you pay more than 15% more. Actually, if you calculate this, some put it at 21%. On what you already pay to the ECG. Joshua Ansah is the Deputy Secretary General of the TUC, joins us. They held a press conference today. Ms. Ansah, the Finance Minister has a message for you on this particular subject. Listen to him.
Well, the governor was clear to you that it's not going to be inflationary. But more important, we have all sorts of tax reliefs that you don't want to talk about. And with regards to the taxes on electricity. That was some time ago, and it doesn't affect, sort of the lifeline tax people. And so I think we should be all right. The emissions tax, as you know, is really 100 cedis a year. That's what we are praying about. I think we'll be okay.
Mr. Ansah, will you be okay?
You will never be okay, Ivan. We will never be okay. We are not okay, and I don't think we'll be okay.
But it's clear, though, that this will not affect, and as has been explained by the ECG spokesperson, lifeline customers, the poorest of the poor. So the government estimation, whoever is going to pay this should be able to afford it.
But Ivan, who determines the lifeline for poor workers of this country? If you are saying the lifeline is 30 kilowatts per hour, then it means our research has indicated that the 30 kilowatts per hour is for one bulb or two bulbs, a fan, and nothing more. If you are switching your fridge on for some time, or even television for more than some 5 hours, then it means you are going to be affected by paying this tax. So the lifeline itself is as low as nothing to write home about. And the poor people of this very country, who are the workers in this very country, are all living in the compound houses. Only few are in their own homes. So definitely they are going to be affected. But Evans, what I want to sound here is that in Ghana, we don't have to wait for things to be established before you start preventing it. It becomes very difficult. Once the finance minister has issued that directive, Labour will want to put a stop. That is why we had a press conference this morning, to actually tell the finance minister and the government that they should withdraw that letter because we are not ready to pay any more taxes on electricity, whether it's beneficial to them or whatever it is. Government must look elsewhere to find money the way they are talking about the IMF way of getting some funds.
But are you ready to engage government on this, though? And have you been engaged? Has anybody reached out to you to explain why the government has to impose a 15% tax?
You know what's interesting in this very country? Those who are bringing a policy should have also thought it wise to also have an engagement with the people. But there was no engagement, and this directive has come out. So how do you expect us to engage? All what Labour is calling for is a total withdrawal of that paper, of that directive, by 31st of this month. And they will be in this very country. We are serious about it, and we think that government will listen and do as we have done.
You just listened to the ECG spokesperson. They are already in conversation with the GRA on how to implement this. He says once that is done, they are confident that this will be enforced. Although she admits that the feedback from their customers hasn't been good, the conversations have started. You said you've given the government up to 31st. It's just 1 week away. Is that a realistic time frame?
It is more than realistic. It is more than realistic to us as Labour. And we are cautioning. We are sending a note of warning to government that paper must be withdrawn. Because, enough for workers of this very country. It is enough. Taxes is enough. Pay tax for a poor worker on electricity, a poor worker who uses just one bulb, who uses one fan, and even one fridge, or even it's becoming too much for us. So we think that the 1 week automatically is enough. And the students think that we are just saying for saying sake. This is a matter for all Ghanaians and every worker in this very country. We mean it.
I get the sense that this is one of those issues you're not ready to compromise on. No negotiations around this.
Yes, Evans. No negotiations about this one at all. Because government knows what it's doing. And Evans, I must tell you that this is not the only tax that is getting its face. It's really its head on our face. There are a lot to come. If you don't manage this one very well, what is going to come is going to be very dangerous for workers of this very country. So we are saying the paper or the directive must be withdrawn, and then let's move on with our lives in this very country.
The finance minister, in the clip I played to you, says that there have been other tax reliefs that they've introduced. Last year they negotiated with you, came to a fair conclusion on what you should earn going into 2024. If you put all that together, the finance minister says, they've done a bit to meet you halfway, but they need this 15%, considering where the economy is right now. Isn't that a fair ask?
But Evans, I've told you that Labour is not ready to engage in those kind of debates. We think that it is unbearable. Workers can no longer bear such a tax, and government must withdraw and withdraw that paper, and also the directives must stop. So if legislation is in engagement with GRA or whatever, then I think that it's going to be futility in this decision. What we want to say is that the workers' pay cannot take them home. Workers are already burdened with taxes. Workers are already burdened. The economic situation in this country is very hard, and we can no longer entertain new taxes. Government must find a way of letting those who don't pay tax to also pay tax to augment whatever finances government need in this very country. Workers are suffering too much, and enough with the taxes. On electricity, very soon it will come to water, very soon it will come to everything. Then, how can we make life make in this very country? We are just saying that it is enough, and government must withdraw that paper and stop that directive.
Mr. Joshua, so thank you very much. He's the Deputy Secretary General of the TUC. Also joining me right now is the President of the National Association of Graduate Teachers, Angel Kabano. Angel, you have members. You went into the meeting today with a message from your members. What was that message?
The message is that Ghanaians are suffering. The taxes are telling on us negatively. The individual financial situation of the Ghanaian workers is gone awry. And the economic situation is telling on us heavily and painfully. I have a feeling that the sensitivity of government is gone. And that government is very interested in straightening their books to satisfy a certain organization called the IMF at the peril of the Ghanaian. This same IMF is the organization that people made noise in this country that they will not go. People made noise in this country that it is not the answer to our problem. Now, this same IMF is giving us directives. When you read the letter signed by the Minister of Minister of Finance, it indicated that the directive is based on agreement with the IMF, writing to ECG and NEDCO to take steps to slap a VAT on electricity bills. Today it is electricity. I can assure you, tomorrow it will be water. Only God knows where it is going to end.
I mean, Mr. Kabunu, just last year, towards the end of the year, you got a 23% increase in your base pay across board, which was supposed to take effect from January to June this year, and then further then moves up to 25% from July to December. Doesn't that put you in a place to accommodate this increase?
Ivan, I have told you severally the salary of the Ghanaian teacher or the public servant. And I've been telling you that 23% of someone whose salary is 3,000 Ghana cedis, that 23% is subject to tax. It's nothing to write home about. In fact, there are people who, when they receive their salary, they use their salary to pay loans. And then they struggle throughout the month. So the situation is getting dire. Unfortunately, the people at the helm of affairs seem to have detached themselves from the pain and misery of the Ghanaian worker, of the Ghanaian populace. Even people are suffering. People are really, really, really suffering in this country.
And just before you go, this 23% should have taken effect this month, or should take effect. It should reflect on your bank account.
Yes, it will reflect at the end of January. But that is nothing to write home about. That is absolutely nothing to write home about. They say inflation is falling. Prices of commodities are still high. So, a falling inflation does not really tell on the pocket. Even people are suffering in this country.
You've said
people are suffering.
You've said that if the finance minister does not withdraw the directive...
31st January, if this directive is not withdrawn unconditionally, organized labor do not have a choice than to advise themselves.
Yeah, what does that mean, really?
Let me say it bluntly. You will engage in industrial action.
Withdraw your services?
Yes.
That has the potential to cripple this country. I mean, considering
the people who are going to withdraw their services, they are already crippled economically. We are crippled. The Ghanaian worker is already crippled. So I don't see why we should be trying for a crippled economy. Even people are suffering.
Mr. Kabono, thank you very much. And he is the president of the Ghana National Association of Graduate Teachers. I want to hear from you tonight. Do you agree with organized labor? He's been blunt. He says they will declare an industrial action. They will withdraw their services. And considering the wide array of labor unions who met today, this indeed, as they themselves couched it, will grind this country to a halt. Do you agree with their position? 055-1111-997. News Night in a minute.
Of late, things no easy, crowd. For my business inside, pressure day from customers. If I make payments, give suppliers, Okada riders, delivery charges, it no easy. Things they move fast like before because everything make expensive. The family where they house, see what are they talk. Family where they call, they ask for another money. It no easy. Vodafone Cash be the only thing where they make my ID get to. If I they do transfers for Vodafone Cash, it they save me money. If you they do Vodafone Cash to Vodafone Cash transactions, still no transfer charges day. Even if I they send money to another network, I they get value.
Make you dial *110# to send money. Sending money from Vodafone Cash to Vodafone Cash still be free. Vodafone.
Good evening and welcome to Newsnight. In the next 60 minutes, the Electoral Commission suggests a shift in the dates for both presidential and parliamentary elections from December 7 to November 7. We have details of this proposal to IPAC, plus a push for election days to be designated as national holidays. Also tonight, I have not quit politics, but I can no longer participate in Saturday's parliamentary primaries. We hear from Ekrapim South MP, Osei Bonsu Amwa, officially withdrawing from the race and requesting a deletion of his name and photo from the ballot paper, citing personal interest as reason for the decision.
There's no indication. I haven't indicated anywhere that I'm quitting politics. I'm fully involved in politics. As we speak, I'm the chairman of the research committee of the party. I represent the party at IPAC. I play different roles. So the issue of quitting politics doesn't come in at all, except that I'm not standing against it. So personal interest and personal interest, period.
We have details as your election headquarters put the spotlight on Adansia, Sukwa, Bekwai and Menchia North constituency. Also this evening, Ghana's democracy is being threatened by corruption. Controversial South African politician Julius Malema hits hard at Ghanaian politicians as he says corruption is plunging the country into debt, putting the country under the dictates of donors.
The democracy of Ghana is threatened by a corruption that made sure that Ghana does not pay its international debt. Today, Ghana is unable to self-determine because everything else is dictated to Ghana by IMF and the World Bank.
Also, management of University of Ghana compelled to suspend physical lectures for hundreds of first-year students. A strike by TEWU and Senior Staff Association forces school to shut down some lecture halls and reduce contact hours at the library.
Some are working currently and most of them have also been closed. So for instance, there's a lecture hall at JQB that they have lectures there. Some have been closed and some are working.
We'll bring you details as NLC summons striking university staff, describing process adopted by TEWU to embark on its industrial action as wrong.
The process they went through was wrong. In any form of strike, you must notify the commission. But they just brought the letter at the time when they have engaged in the strike already.
And in business, second tranche of IMF cash hits Bank of Ghana's account, bringing the total amount of cash disbursed to more than $1.2 billion.
And in sports, calls for a complete overhaul of the Black Stars intensify after the team's collapse in the 2023 African Cup of Nations.
That and more in this evening's edition of News Night. Do all to join us with your thoughts and comments. It's via WhatsApp 05511119997. I am Emefa Apawu.
And my name is Mensah, and we start tonight with that unfolding controversy over when to have this year's elections. Just last week, we heard from the Seventh-day Adventists. They were demanding that that day be shifted because it does not agree with their religious beliefs. Today, guess who has joined this conversation? Is the Electoral Commission itself, and they are suggesting that the date be moved to November 7 instead of December 7. The chairperson of the Electoral Commission, Mensah, herself has been pushing this subject with the parties themselves, and this will affect both the presidential and parliamentary elections on December 7. Additionally, the EC is advocating for election days to be designated as national holidays. The proposals were presented during the Inter-Party Advisory Committee meeting held on Monday on a host of other issues. We'll hear pretty shortly from the key players in that particular meeting. But as we know, this is part of EC's own internal reform process. And a host of proposals have been put forward by the Electoral Commission on what to do with elections and how to enhance it. This is one of them that had come forth. As far back as 2015, the EC has just not been able to move it forward. But as we see that today, they brought it again for the parties to consider. We'll hear the thoughts of the parties on this. But this is something that, if you're a Seventh-day Adventist, is exactly something that you would applaud. They had actually referenced this in their petition to the Electoral Commission, that you started the process in 2015, activate it. A week on, the EC has activated it.
From the parties, and this came up at the IPAC meeting, and we'll get to know whether the parties agree to this and whether this would happen at least this year. November 7 will be the election day, and whether it will definitely be a public holiday amongst others. We'll be joined shortly by the Electoral Commission as well as the parties as well, and Dr. Bosman Asare thankfully joins us on the line. We are grateful for your time here on Newsnight. I'd first want to know what exactly the reaction to this particular proposal was at IPAC yesterday.
Good evening to you, Emefa. Good evening to Mr. Mensah too. And good evening to your cherished listeners, and if there are viewers. Yeah, I just want to say yesterday we had a very productive IPAC meeting. I know for the first time in several years, the National Democratic Congress was hugely represented by two officials. We discussed several issues, but one of the prominent ones had to do with shifting the election day forward from the December 7th to a day in November, which was widely accepted by both the parties and the CSOs that were present.
Really, is this on the premise of that petition that you received from the SDA? Unfortunately, we've just lost Dr. Bosman Asare there, but like we've been saying, it's a proposal from 2015 from that reform program for the date of the election day to be moved forward, and now they're proposing a particular date, which is November 7, to the parties. It appears that the parties are also in line with this particular proposal from the Electoral Commission, but we'll be hearing from them on this shortly. But that's the news that we're getting, at least from yesterday's IPAC meeting. And it's interesting to note also that the NDC were at IPAC yesterday.
And I'm interested to hear what their position was on this particular matter. To put this in context, this is not the only electoral reform proposal that the EC has been trying to get the parties to buy into. Over the period, they had suggested, as part of the recommendations for reform, institutionalization of IPAC was one. Defining the term ordinary resident, extending the period of notice for the voter registration exercise, use of BVD, implementation of the continuous voter registration, which of course the EC had argued that they wanted to go ahead with, had been controversial in Parliament. They also had recommended election officials and party agents to take oath before a magistrate instead of an officer of the Electoral Commission also. There's a host of proposals that the Electoral Commission has put forth for the parties to consider. They have implemented a few, and those have implemented continuous voter registration exercise regulation, which they presented to Parliament, and then expanding of the list of special voters to include media personnel and election observers. They've done that. Those yet to be done includes this change of date from December 7.
And thankfully, Dr. Bosman Asari is back on the line. We'll also be hearing from the PNC on this. They were in that meeting as well. So just before the line dropped, I was wondering if this particular move or the proposal is being put forward again on the back of that petition that you received from the SDA Church. Hello, Dr.
Hello, I'm online now. Hello.
We can hear you okay now.
Okay.
Okay, it appears we're just having some technical challenges there. I would rectify that shortly, and then we'll get the reactions from the various political parties and hear from the Electoral Commission on this as well. But Evans, let's stay a while longer in the election headquarters because there's a lot happening ahead of Saturday's parliamentary primaries. And we'll start off from the Akuapem South constituency. Your election headquarters always made possible by Petrol Sol, your cliff wall in full quantity. Akuapem South, we go now.
Exactly. It was a bombshell today, indeed, when we woke up to news that the Akuapem South Member of Parliament is a Minister of State. The local government ministry, Osei Bonsu Amwa, you know him popularly as Obi Amwa, has officially withdrawn from the New Patriotic Party parliamentary primary, which was supposed to kick off on Saturday morning. This very Saturday. We're looking forward to covering it. His constituency was going to be one of the areas to watch. Even more so now that he's officially withdrawn.
Well, in a letter addressed to the NPP, Mr. Obi Amwa expressed his decision not to pursue his ambition for another term in office and requested the party's general secretary to remove his name from the ballot paper for the upcoming election. With Obi Amwa's withdrawal, though, you know that then the contenders for the constituency primary will be Kwame Ofori-Jewu, Eric Samuel Ano Mensah, and Frank Edu, who holds the position of Municipal Chief Executive for Akuapem South. We can hear from Obi Amwa his brief interaction with the media in the region.
No indication. I've indicated anywhere that I'm quitting politics. I'm fully involved in politics. As we speak, I'm the chairman of the research committee of the party. I represent the party at IPAC. I play different roles. So the issue of quitting politics doesn't come in at all. Except that I'm not standing again, that's all. It's for the people to judge whether I'll be missed. I cannot stand here and say that I'll be missed. Now, of course, by the grace of God, this is my 4th term in Parliament, and I've gathered experience along the line. I've also served in the executive. That is the kind of experience that the party can always use at any time. So that is how it is. As to whether I'll be missed, I don't know how I'm going to be missed because I'm still actively involved in whatever goes on. Personal interest, period.
Well, so that's Obi Amwa there in that brief interaction with the media in the Eastern region. We'll be hearing from the Eastern Regional Secretary of the NPP at least, and also hear from the party whether they are going to grant that request of removing his name and photo from the ballot paper ahead of Saturday, considering a number of days that we have to go. But I'm sure we would want to get updates on this particular election date change. At least for Saturday is constant, but for November or December 7, whether we are going to have a change. And thankfully, Dr. Bosman Asari joins us back on the line. We are grateful. Let's see if you can hear us loud and clear now. Dr. Bosman Asari, good evening.
Good evening.
Much better. Thank you so much for having the patience to join us once again. So before we got dropped, I was asking if this particular new shift or the 2015 reform program that you're putting forward to IPAC was on the back of this petition that you received from the SDA.
Well, let me state very clearly that it had nothing to do with what the Adventist Church brought in the form of a petition. This was something the Commission had thought about it from the 2020, but we didn't have enough time to be able to put it into action in 2020. And yesterday, when we met at IPAC, we made it very clear to the parties that this was a proposal that came from the political parties themselves in 2015. And the reason they gave at the time was that in the event there was a runoff, the EC will have exactly 21 days. And right after the 21 days, the next 1 week will be inauguration. Apart from that, too, we gave a reason that the time for the EC to work on organizing the elections within 3 weeks will be very, very tight. And beyond that, the time for the inauguration, you have a new government and an old government living office. The time will be too short. So we gave those reasons for why we think that what was adopted in 2015 will still be relevant in 2024. So we told the parties that it came from them, they should support, so that all of us will work in tandem to ensure that we are able to have enough days in the event of a runoff, we'll be able to implement it successfully.
And you said earlier that when this was pitched to the parties in this IPAC meeting, there was unanimous acceptance?
No, generally, the people who attended the IPAC meeting yesterday, they made it very clear to us that this was something they are in full support. They are in sync with the EC, but it will also require that they go back and report to their party leadership to hear their views, so that when they come, they will present the official position of their parties. So the EC told them, if that is the case, this is something we are ready to meet them next week again for another meeting. Because we made it clear to them, this proposal came from you, and we think the time is right to implement it. So we want to know what you think. So if the party says, the parties believe it's not something they are interested in, the EC doesn't have a problem at all. We only told them that it came from you. Go ahead and meet your party bosses and come back to us on Monday for another meeting so that we know the way forward. But we are not doing it for ourselves. We are doing it for Ghana's democracy. We are doing it for the political parties. And based on the discussions that transpired yesterday, the parties believe that this is something which will be good for our democracy.
Beyond this particular proposal, though, I look at the tall list of recommendations that were made in 2015. It included changing the time for voting from 7 to 3. Did you put it before the parties too?
No, we didn't discuss that one. Actually, we discussed two things. Changing the election date to a day possibly in November. Then secondly, making the day of elections a public holiday. Those were the two main issues that were discussed yesterday.
And a public holiday, was there an acceptance of that?
Yes, because we made it clear to them that in 2020 we succeeded in making IPAC and the Electoral Commission wrote to the Chief of Staff to work on making December 7, 2020 a public holiday. And we're able to have a very high voter turnout, a little over 79%. So we, in our thinking, we thought the public holiday contributed to the higher voter turnout. So why not continue with something that has worked very well in the past?
Was the NDC there yesterday?
No, the NDC was there.
And when they came in, how was it? Was it cordial? Because I know this has been a long-standing issue.
Oh, it was very cordial. We had very productive deliberations yesterday, and IPAC members welcomed them and encouraged them to stay. Because this is a project for Ghana, and all of us must work collectively to be able to promote it.
And their feedback to you was they will return?
Yes. And everything we do even when they were not coming, we're sharing everything with them. And based on what transpired yesterday, we believe that next week they will come for us to finish the discussions on changing of the date to a particular day in November.
That change will require some amendments to the Constitution.
Yes,
and also legislative instrument.
Certainly.
Is the EC in the position to do this within the time frame you have? Because there are specific time frames around what you can do when Parliament returns. Thankfully, it is not entrenched.
Yes. We've checked our calendar, and we are convinced that if we meet IPAC members next week and all of us agree, we should be able to push it. We will do our very best to be able to push it, because it's in the interest of the political parties, it's in the interest of the Electoral Commission. And when you look at the Constitution, for the presidential election, we have to between September 7th and December 7th to be able to organize it. but it doesn't apply to the parliamentary. So all this discussion is because of the parliamentary election. So if we're able to amend the necessary articles in the Constitution, we'll be able to shift both forward, and preferably on a day in November. Then in case of a runoff, we'll have enough time. In case of a new government taking over too, we'll have enough time. And the EC will also have significant time to prepare for printing of ballot papers, filing of nominations in that manner.
Thank you very much. That's the Deputy Commissioner of the EC, Dr. Bosman Asare, there clarifying for us the two key issues that he talked about, but also the NDC's return. He says it was pretty cordial yesterday. They've been encouraged to return, and they've assured that they will.
Well, let's go back to Ethiopian South. And my colleague Elton Brobe has been digging on this particular decision of Obiamwa to withdraw from the race on Saturday. Well, he joins us via Zoom. We'll also be engaging shortly the Eastern Regional Secretary of the NPP in the area as well. So, Elton, let's talk about the backstory we are picking up to this particular decision by Obiamwa.
So, this is coming as a shock to a lot of people. A shock because the decision is coming at the 11th hour when the party is almost in readiness to conduct the parliamentary primaries across the country, and Kwapem South was obviously one of the most serious place to watch. Now, for those who've known Obiamwa, he is very direct person and he's very focused as well. So this decision took a lot of people by surprise. But again, also those who are very close to him will know that he was going into a contest this weekend with somebody who we know is very close, a personal assistant, if you like, Kwame Oforijo. And for that reason, there were a lot of skepticism around the whole show. But then yesterday, when we got information that he had, taken himself out of the contest, I remember I reached out to him with a prepared note. I mean, let me just put this across. So we had a communication to the party, but it was not on the letterhead of Mr. Obiamwa, but it had his signature. But when we put it to him, he denied it. And then this morning, the same content of the letter we put it to him yesterday came up, but this time on his personal letter. So there's been a lot of speculation around whether he meant it from the word go, because he was going into a contest with his personal assistant, Mr. Oforijo. Now that he's out of the race, the suspicion is that he's fully supporting the candidature or the aspiration of Oforijo for the Kwapem South, MPP slot.
And instantly, it raises the profile of the constituency even more, considering that we were already focusing on that particular constituency. And there were a lot read into this because it came as a major surprise, considering the time frame that we had to the elections, considering that he had gone through vetting, he's participated in the balloting to get his place, and for everything else that we know, he was committed to this process and then dropped out. This morning when we heard the news. Do we have any clear sense how this is being received in the constituency?
Well, I'm guessing. I mean, for those who've known Obi and those who are privy to the background story, clearly the signs were on the wall. As to whether Obi did this to spite somebody is very unclear as of now. But what we are picking is that he may be supporting one of the candidates in the race, and it will not be far from the truth to say that Kwame Oforijo is his preferred candidate to take over from him.
Okay, Elton, thank you very, very much there.
Let's bring in the Eastern Regional Secretary of the NPP, Tony Oseje. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsnight. One wonders, what are the exact reasons or reason for this resignation that is not communicated in the MP's letter that we've been reading?
Thank you. And good evening to your listeners once again. Honorable Obiamwa resignation came not surprise to some of us because the ratings were clearly very clear and visible on the walls. Because right from the onset, he made mention some people who were close to him that he might not run. So when nomination was opened and he picked forms, some of us were a bit surprised. So the process was ongoing. He opened nomination, he picked forms, he filed. And together, what we picked from the grounds was that he filed with his PA. But later he came on to debunk the claim that he was once his PA and now he's no more his PA. So we just rested the issue there. So proud to yesterday, there was this rumor that he is likely to resign from or withdraw from the race. And there has been a meeting somewhere which wasn't that confirmed that he will withdraw. So when we saw the letter yesterday, some of us were not surprised because we knew that was what was happening. Because he wasn't campaigning in the constituency as an MP who wants to run. When you compare his activity to that of his colleagues, you could see that his colleagues who are running are visible in their constituency, but he wasn't. So for me, he's the best person to explain his reason behind his resignation.
Well, so I would think or guess that the party then at your level has already accepted this decision because you see that it was unsurprising.
Yeah, we have accepted the decision because we preempted it and we knew somewhere along the line he might withdraw. Even on the election day, he might. Because we preempted it.
But he made a request in that letter that his name and photo be removed from the ballot paper, considering the time that we have. Would that request be granted, you'd say?
And that is a bit of a challenge because what I'm taking from the ground is that the other aspirants are also not happy. Because one, when you remove or take the lectures details from the ballot paper, are we going to do a reballoting to adjust the position of the one who picked number 3 is moving to number 2 when he has actually gone to the ground to campaign with his position? So how are we going to manage it? So it's up to the National Party to take that decision.
Ms. AJ, we are grateful for your time. We'll check on the party at the national level on what the decision will be. So now it's left with Kwame Ofori-Jewu, the man that we're told was the PA of Obi Amwa, Eric Samo Ano Mensah. We also have Frank Edu, who is currently the MCE for Equiapem South.
And as far as his request is concerned, the party understand they've already printed the notice of poll. They're in the process of finalizing the printing of the ballots. And as we speak tonight, his name is already on the ballot. The reason why many were left pretty surprised by this, of course, those on the ground, as you've heard from the party's executives there, they were in that surprise, as Obi Amwa is a formidable politician, a minister of state. And so to wake up to see that he's withdrawn, a lot of meanings were read into this, but as you heard, this has been explained now. The question now is how the party handles this request to take his name, image from the ballot paper for Saturday. But as you know, this is your election headquarters. We are keeping a close eye on everything MPP parliamentary primary. Tonight, we have a conversation with some of the new faces who are seeking to go into parliament. They're coming up against some stalwarts. We're going to be hearing from Gideon Boako, who is coming up against Frida Pepe. That is an interesting contest. He's going to be joining us on PM Express. We'll hear from Charles Bisu, who is seeking to replace the man I spoke to yesterday, former Attorney General, former Railways Minister, Dr. Joe Gatti. Claudia Lumon, who heads Glades Africa. She also joined us for a conversation. Exactly. So we want to hear from these new faces. What is it that is motivating them to want to go into parliament? Because you hear the parliamentarians tell us all the time that it's very difficult. It's actually a place where you spend more than you earn. Okay, so why is it?
Why are you going there?
Why they want to go there? And these are very well-known, popular faces who will join us for a conversation. Guess who also will join us? The spokesperson for the Education Ministry. He's also going to join us for a conversation. There's something about the Education Ministry. The last spokesperson became a member of Parliament, and now the one who succeeded him also wants to go. So join us for that conversation with some analysis too of some of the key places to watch.
Well, let's focus on Odansia Sokwa also, and then Bekwai, and then Menchia North constituency. Nana Boachi Dankwa Yadom has more in this report.
The new Patriotic Party's parliamentary primaries will be held across 41 constituencies in the Ashanti region. This includes constituencies with incumbent MPs facing stiff opposition in their quest to seek re-election, and constituencies where the MPs are retiring from Parliament. At the Mensah North constituency, the incumbent Member of Parliament Akwasi Kunedu, who has served one term in Parliament, is facing a tough contest against former MP Collins Owusu Amankwa and two others.
There is nothing like complacency in this game, and I know, inshallah, and by his grace, victory is assured.
But the former MP for the area, Collins Amankwa, says his quest to return to Parliament is a call from the constituents.
Wherever you go, people are craving for my comeback, that I should come and continue with the laudable projects that I was embarking on.
In the Bekwai constituency, Joseph Osei-Wusu is opting out of Parliament. This has opened the race up for 4 candidates, including retired Commissioner of Police George Alex Mensah and Raphael Lopoko-Dusay.
My message to the delegates, I've always been telling them that COP is coming to make sure that the whole Bekwai constituency, we all come together and fight.
Ralph Poko-Dusay also has his eyes on the Bekwai seat.
Yes, they've bought into his vision and his plans for the delegates.
Adansia Sokwa constituency has 3 aspirants seeking to unseat incumbent MP KT Hammond.
Gotta ask them if they know the constituency. Gotta ask them what is it that they know about the constituency.
We are not looking for the win. The win is guaranteed.
Sami Benfotakwa is contesting KT Hammond for the 2nd time.
Yes, he's a giant, but then he's not that he's unbeatable. 2020, he was saved, just 58 votes, and I'll keep on repeating it. There is nothing that somebody can not use 24 years to do that he can use 4 years to do.
For Joe News, Nana Boachitankwa Yadom, Kumasi.
Are you ready to win your flags? Are you ready?
Emefa Apawu, are you ready for Saturday?
Yes.
All day.
Ready. This is our election headquarters. Of course, we are always ready.
We have a marathon coverage. I'm pretty sure that we're probably going to do a coverage ton.
So are you going to send your request to the Guinness Book of Records?
We should. Yes, we should. One of these days, actually,
for the longest coverage of the elections in the country.
Because it's amazing how you don't know where you get the energy from. But you actually do it sometimes 12 hours straight. But stay with me, Joe. Stay with me for a second, because we've been talking about this surprise withdrawal from the race when it comes to parliamentary primaries by Obi Amwa, who is a member of parliament for the Kwapen South constituency in the Eastern region. You know that, as we've been talking about, he's asked the party to delete from the party's records his details as it relates to the elections. He says, I respectfully request that in accordance with the public elections regulations, my name should be deleted on the ballot paper for the elections. Let's bring in the party's director of elections, Evans Nemako, joins us now. Mr. Nemako, thanks for your time here on News.
My pleasure.
Is the party in the position to accommodate this request to delete his details, his name on the ballot paper? Have you printed it already?
Well, thank you very much for having me. I think the party has put in enough mechanism to ensure that come Saturday, 27 January 2024, we're going to have an extraordinary constituency annual delegate conference that will elect our parliamentary candidate. Yes, you are right. We've received a letter from Honorable Obi Amwa of his intention not to be in the contest anymore. And so the party is taking steps to ensure that he will not be on the ballot, in order that the electorate will be firm in their minds, the aspirant on the ballot. That the party is taking steps to ensure that it is addressed.
That is to confirm that the ballot papers have not been printed just yet.
The party has put in enough mechanism. I mean, you should be on time. As I mentioned, today is 23rd. We are having this exercise on 27th. And so, time is not on our side. But we've been in constant touch with the EC, who is giving us the professional advice on notice of full ballot papers, as we've always been doing it. So, we will do what is required of us.
As far as the party is concerned, Obiamo is a stalwart. He chairs one of your very important committees. Has this withdrawal been formally accepted, or has there been an attempt to try and convince him to stay on the ballot?
I mean, this is a personal decision, and the party cannot at any point force any individual to be in a contest against his or her will. So at this point, the party will go ahead with the constituency delegate conference in Ekafin South. You must be aware that when the party has done this kind of elections, it doesn't end there. After the primaries, New Patriotic Party is going to conduct verification on candidates before the General Secretary will submit the party's list to the EC. So there is time. But as has been directed by the National Executive Committee, 27th of this month, the party is expected to conduct this conference. And so it is going to happen. Beyond that, if there's any decision that the party will take, the National Executive Committee is clothed with authority to take such decision. And so, until we get to that stage, we go to the army for the war, or the war with the army you have.
Thank you very much. That is Evans Nemako, who is the Director of Elections for the New Patriotic Party. What it means, Emefa Apawu, is Obiama will not be returning to Parliament.
But he mentions that he's not quit politics.
He's not.
And that all the positions he holds in the party, he would still continue to serve in those capacities.
A tall list of very prominent names, ministers who will not be returning next year, voluntarily saying we just are tired of just doing work in Parliament. We want to stay as politicians and do a work for the party, but not as members of Parliament. Joe Garte is one of them. George, what do you have in the headlines?
Well, Evans, coming up, second tranche of IMF cash finally hits Bank of Ghana's account, bringing the total amount of cash disbursed to the country to more than $1.2 billion. And first set of tax measures to be implemented this year, and rising cost of crude oil could impact on any significant reduction in the policy rate review as the Monetary Policy Committee begins regular rounds of meeting to review health of the economy. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business, Kingdom Books and Stationery, Syntax Tangs, and Pepsodent Charcoal and Herbal.
The other day, I visited Kweku at his spunky new office to congratulate him on opening his business. And man, was I impressed. The business is just moving quick. The sales, customers, everything is just working seamlessly. The secret? He said,
it's MTN Business Broadband. In this fast-paced environment, we need fast and reliable internet to support all business types. No laggy online meetings, great download and upload speeds, impeccable business management systems, all inclusive. I mean, you can have it all.
Shout! I signed on immediately.
To enable your business stay ahead and stay connected, make sure you're signed on to the best internet made just for businesses. MTN Business Broadband. Sign up today on broadband.mtn.com.gh and manage your account on my MTN app. Call 0244-308-111 for more information. We are good together everywhere you go.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kingdom Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC KCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. Or call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
No matter your water needs, Syntex has it all. Syntex tank was first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex tank was first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now introduces the customer specs order, which will let you order any color and size you want. Syntex tanks gives you the biggest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex tank. Syntex tank, stress-free. Syntex tank, reliable. Syntex tank, maximum guarantee. Call 0244 335 168, Kumasi 0505 555 666, or visit syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough.
Central University, Ghana's leading private Christian university, has open admissions. Apply now for a degree in environmental engineering, fashion design, landscape design, interior design, business administration, economics, law, nursing, civil engineering, architecture, computer science, IT, theology, PharmD, and many others. Degrees are available on our campuses in Mutual, ICGC Christ Temple, Abosokai, and Kumasi. Also enroll in our MBA with various specializations. Scholarships are available for needy but brilliant students. Call us on 0303 318 583 or visit our website at central.edu.gh for more information. Central University, raising transformational leaders through faith, integrity, and excellence.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, a little over $600 million has finally hit Bank of Ghana's account. The IMF announced last week that it has released its funds after Ghana passed the first review under the fund program. However, it appears the money came through today. This brings the total amount that the IMF has dispersed to more than $1.2 billion since the country signed up to the IMF program in May last year. The immediate impact to be on Bank of Ghana's international reserves, putting it in a strong position to support the local currency. It could also go a long way to help in stabilizing the Ghana city. Meanwhile, Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta had earlier explained to Joy Business where the monies will be directed to.
It comes really to us, and
yeah,
I'll put it that way. And then, of course, for the central bank, it shows up our foreign reserves.
What are you looking for in terms of the expectation to the broader economy?
Trigger the World Bank, that would also happen on the 25th, I believe, and it will anchor us with regards to currency stability, etc., for this period. And as you know, these reviews come quickly, so before long, maybe April, we'll have another one looking at disbursements in June and disbursements in November.
And that is Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta talking about the fact that these funds that have come in will be used to finance some projects in the budget. The Bank of Ghana could be forced to hold its policy rate at the current rate or possibly reduce it marginally next Monday. Now, these are the concerns of some market watchers as the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana begins its meeting to review the health of the economy. There is more in this report.
There are strong expectations that with the significant drop in inflation rate from July last year to 23% in December, the Bank of Ghana may not have any excuse not to drop the policy rate by some significant margin. The rate currently stands at 30% after it has been kept unchanged since July last year. But there are fears that government's decision to roll out some 5 new taxes from this year and fears of crude oil prices rising again may reverse gains made when it comes to inflation rate slowdown. The development may result in the monetary policy rate being cut marginally instead of the significant drop that we are expecting. The policy rate currently influences the cost of credit in the country. It is the rate at which the Bank of Ghana lends to commercial banks in the country.
And that is a business desk report. Meanwhile, some business associations are insisting that there wouldn't be any justification for the Bank of Ghana to keep the rate at the current high levels, looking at the fact that all the indicators are reducing. Magbedu Abuaji is the chief executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry.
There is no justification for a central bank to keep the policy rate at 30%. Recent data indicate that our interest rate is the highest in the whole Africa. This interest rate are the other cost of production, and you know how the difficulty is. So it is time that they step back. We appreciate that to some extent they've been able to use the policy rate in inflation. Now inflation is down 23.2. There is no need for the central bank to keep the policy rate at 30%. They should reduce the policy rate, and also I know the banks will also respond positively. Once the policy rate comes down, the banks will also respond and reduce their interest rate. If you keep
Magbedu Abuaji is the chief executive of the Ghana National Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Now, business strategist and lawyer, that is David Ofosudote, is making a strong case for expenditure cuts to deal with Ghana's low tax collection challenge. Ghana is currently being forced to increase tax collections as part of the IMF program conditions. This has led to warnings that a lot of businesses could collapse because of this development. Now, Ofosudote believes that the government may still have a way around to change the strategy.
Are not taxing the people who are not being taxed. So if you are not looking at expenditure, your tax to GDP ratio will definitely.
You should cut expenditure.
Yeah.
That definitely could be their approach.
Definitely yes. But the approach to cutting expenditure, I think about, is not the traditional approach to cutting expenditure. Definitely size of government. We all agree size of government. But we tend to create institutions which really are a burden on the public purse. There are some institutions. I'm not so sure whether we need them, and it's not the creation of this government. Why do we need YEA? I don't know if you can convince me.
Jobs for the youth, to help creating jobs.
Why can't we use a budget for YEA to incentivize the ordinary businesses who?
Business strategist and lawyer David Ofosudote. The government has expressed its commitment to supporting startups in line with the required technical and financial support. Now, this follows the launch of the Business in the Box program, a partnership between the Ghana Enterprises Agency and the MasterCard Foundation. Koshiyanki Aya is the chief executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency.
Heart of the Business in the Box lies in its commitment to foster an entrepreneurial mind shift that will enable our youth to succeed in a variety of settings. We recognize that this shift is not merely another intervention, but a well thought out intervention that seeks to bring to the doorstep of Ghanaian youth their needs, their skills, the tools that are required to build and grow this great nation of ours.
Koshiyanki, chief executive of the Ghana Enterprises Agency, is an ambitious goal to empower more than 250 individuals as well as provide them with market support to 50,000 businesses. Now, to other stories, and Vodafone Ghana will in the coming days formally rebrand as Telecel. Now, this has been announced on the various social media handles of the telecoms group about this move. The new brand will still have the corporate colors of red and white. The change follows Vodafone Group's decision to sell its 70% stake in Vodafone Ghana to Telecel. Telecel is an African-focused telecom company with diverse approach in telecom space, driven by innovation and digital. And that's all for business on Newsnight. Back to you, Evans.
Thank you very much, George. And we're still nursing our wounds from last night. And guess who is here to help us with the healing process? That is, if he's healed himself. Hello, Ms. Bao. Have you?
I don't know. Technically, we're not out, so we're just banging on the technicals.
I was hoping you would say something that will move me along the path towards full recovery, and then you just brought me back full circle.
Yeah.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, what it means is that you can. There are teams who are likely to qualify as the third best placed teams. Ghana ended the group in our group as in a third position. Now, there are a few things that need to go our way, and one of them seems to be going in the way that we want it to go. That's the game between Cameroon and Gambia. It needs to end in a draw to completely take Cameroon out of the chances of qualifying via that third place spot. And at the moment, they are drawing against Gambia is 1-1. And if it ends like that, it's good. Then Morocco need to defeat Zambia, which is very likely. And if that also happens, then it's good for Ghana. You're back into the tournament.
Are you not tired with all the things
explain
you're going through?
Oh my goodness, man. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Yesterday here, Emefa was predicting 2-1. And when the penalty came, I was like, ooh, that's Emefa's prediction was true. Then Richard Ofori did the Richard Ofori things. Anyway,
same outcome, same mistakes from the Egypt game. We did not learn.
Yeah.
I mean, as we know, the coach is going to take the fall. Should have done it possibly a while back.
Of course, it's responsibility, but
of course,
didn't
obviously,
resign.
he's just stating the obvious. You know already. And then the players. And I had very serious recommendation today, which is that they should just ban the Black Stars for 5 years, and I just know that we don't have them. While we take their time to sort of reconstruct the whole team. Anyway,
we have heard
what
that.
else
Well,
you
I did share with you, and maybe this is where I would possibly give up. As at the time I was coming to the studio, it was 1-1. Then Cameroon took the lead 2-1, and then Gambia equalized again. As of now, Cameroon have taken the lead. They are leading 3-2. So now the Black Stars can come home. Now they can come home if they were waiting for any hope at all. But like you mentioned, been interacting with some Ghanaians who've been calling for the disbandment of the Black Stars team. Some are asking for 10 years, some are asking for 5 years, and others are even asking for a possible dissolution of the Ghana Football Association itself. Let's hear them.
I won't lie to you, I was really disappointed because you know this year we were all hoping they could win, but unfortunately they are out. So I was really disappointed.
My little advice to the government and the subsequent government is to ban the Black Stars for about 5 years so that we start again from the scratch.
Ghana football, we need to, even from the GFA. There's a problem with the GFA. They have to, check the GFA, the leadership. If they can do some changes or they can talk to them.
Black Stars, because Black Stars were there. One way, you turn over for congressional.
Akufo-Addo president Krapa Monfa minister of your friends sports be naturally just said the omo ye no hey odwe hu ahunti ase.
That's the reaction of the Ghanaians there. And just like I mentioned, Cameroon are leading by 3-2. That's the update from the AFCON. And Senegal and Guinea are also playing. Senegal is currently leading by 2-0 in that game. Senegal, based on this result, have already advanced 9 points. Cameroon will join them. And they are also in there alongside Cape Verde. And, of course, there will also be games later at 8 p.m. And we'll see the teams that will finalize their qualification to the next stage of the tournament. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the Black Stars, but the tournament continues.
Thank you, Musbah.
Emefa Apawu has retired her nice Black Stars jersey that she wore yesterday, screaming, shouting, jumping, kicking in a new shoe.
How you were so unperturbed during the game amazes me.
Oh, this is the Black Stars. If you support Manchester United, you're just used to defeat, and so you just know how to check out and just take it easy. Yeah. Well, you're still live here on News 90, so enjoy 99.7 FM. Okay. Well, we'll update you on football a bit more as we all try to nurse ourselves back to full health. Let's talk about a voice that we have listened from afar. Nearly got into country the last time early this year, but circumstances beyond his control made it impossible for him to come. Now he's here, and he's saying some pretty controversial stuff. Controversial South African politician Julius Malema is blaming corruption for Ghana's resource curse and challenge that we face currently, and decision to go to the International Monetary Fund for a bailout, stating that the country's democracy is currently under threat from corruption. Well, speaking during an event dubbed a dialogue with Julius Malema, organized by pressure group Arise Ghana, the founder of the Economic Freedom Fighters said corruption continues to be the bane of many African countries. The IMF board approved, as you know, a first review of Ghana's loan program on Friday, allowing for the immediate disbursement of about $600 million. And as George Affe has been saying tonight, it's in our account right now. Listen to the man himself.
The democracy of Ghana is threatened by corruption, a corruption that made sure that Ghana does not pay its international debt. As a result, today, Ghana is unable to self-determine because everything else is dictated to Ghana by IMF and the World Bank because the current leadership failed to honor their obligation. Corruption is a threat to a wonderful democracy anyway because it's eating on the moral fiber of democratic dispensation. We must never ever celebrate anyone who is corrupt or seek to defend the corrupt individuals irrespective of our political affiliation. Those who are stealing from the public purse now, they are stealing from the future. That's why they are unable to pay the debt now, and they will not be able to pay the debt in future. And it is you, the youth of Africa, that are going to inherit the debt, and you will not be able to develop your own countries. There is a tendency in the African continent of the youth defending the old corrupt because they give them the little money now and they forget the future.
He's also been making a strong case for for media freedom. Malema argues that regardless of how poor journalists may perform their duties, media freedom must be safeguarded to prevent misgovernance.
Ghanaians, we must make sure that we refuse the suppression of media freedom, because without media freedom we are nothing. If there is anyone who can tell the world of any wrongdoing in Ghana and in South Africa and everywhere else, is the fourth estate. It must be protected. It doesn't matter how bad they write about you, you must protect their right to write, because without that pen, you must know there is an ushering in of a dictatorship. If media is suppressed, if media can't write about corruption, if media takes bribes from governments, you must know those are the dark days of the African continent. Let us help the traditional media to expose the corrupt leadership, to expose the mining companies that milk Africa without leaving anything in Africa. The gold of Ghana must remain in Ghana and service the people of Ghana.
And that's Julius Malema. He also has a message for African leaders. He says they must learn to leave when their tenure is over. We'll have more of that subsequently. My colleague Maxwell Ababa has been monitoring that. We'll hear from him subsequently on this. But the geeks are back today, and Peps is in the studios. What are we talking about tonight, Peps?
Samsung just had an event last week, Wednesday, and they launched 3 different devices: the Samsung Galaxy 24, 24 Plus, and then the Ultra. Today, we just want to unpack the whole event so that people can make a decision.
I was waiting for you to do that when Apple launched.
But we did.
You did, eh?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Okay. Well, Peps, we're waiting for that. At least Android users, Samsung lovers, you want to stay for details of that on the Geek Squad. And that's how we wrap up tonight's edition of News Night here on Joy 99.7 FM. I am Emefa Apawu. I've been doing this with Evans Mensah.